Monday morning, there was a fun series of incidents between 10:19 and 10:34 where one of my low-carbers said yes after 10 days of indecision. I received a new business client inquiry, and something else I'll tell you about later in the call, all within 15 minutes. It's like 10:19, 10:24, 10:34. Oh my God, I was in quite a tizzy.
On a Monday.
Exactly. After sometimes weeks go by, then nothing happens, and then three quite exciting things in 15 minutes on a Monday morning.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Good morning.
Morning, Bird. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Good.
And yourself?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good. Well, we're going for the background cicada noise today because it's too damn hot to close anything.
Okay. And today is our end of summer term.
Hey!
It's our last recording. We're going to have 5 Thursdays off, and when we come back on the first Thursday of September, I think we'll probably record 2 when we get back in the one in the bag, one in the week type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I shall be using my Thursday mornings for writing.
Oh, very good. So you've reassigned the space already?
I have indeed, yes. Because I've got to, otherwise nothing will get done. Yes,
okay. Well, that's kind of the point of August, but I take your point, yes.
Yeah. So tell me about your week then.
Oh, I've got 3 things to tell you, actually. On Saturday, I had another night out with my West Country cousins. Cool. And this time they took me to a posh restaurant, quite newly opened, with a quote-unquote chef down from London. And that was evident. The food was very good. I was the frontline defence. I worked out that I'd been invited because some of their cousins on the other side of their family, i.e. people I don't know, were visiting on their annual visit from Australia, and they sent me a link to their website. They were, hush my mouth, forensic accountants.
Oh, exciting.
No. Nobody, this was all done without words, nobody said, come and help us with these dull accountants, but I knew what the brief was. And nevertheless, it was nice. And I sat opposite my cousin, and he's fun, and his son Jack, who also is in a band and has his own business and is about 30 and his baby's about 1. He came up to me at the end and he said he'd Googled me, and I went, oh, and should he buy my book? I said, well, I think it's probably a little bit girly for you. And he said, oh, I don't mind girly, which is a nice thing. And then he said, would I come over to his house and hang out? I said, love to, thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was another success. And then I emailed my brother, and he said, "You coming to London at all soon?" I think he didn't actually say this, but I think you've been to see our cousins down there twice since I've seen you last. Are you coming to London? And I said at that point, no, but you'll hear later, I am visiting London. Anyway, Monday morning, there was a fun series of incidents between 10:19 and 10:34 where one of my low-carbers said yes after 10 days of indecision. I received a new business client inquiry, and something else I'll tell you about later in the call, all within 15 minutes. It's like 10:19, 10:24, 10:34. Oh my God, I was in quite a tizzy.
On a Monday.
Exactly. After sometimes weeks go by, then nothing happens, and then 3 quite exciting things in 15 minutes on a Monday morning.
Wow, marvelous.
And then later that same day, 2 more low-carbers piled in, and one of them, after quite a weird going on with PayPal, because she emailed me on her way back from holiday. You know how sometimes you feel a little bit on the porky side after a holiday, don't you?
Yeah.
She was clearly feeling that and said, can I join us? Oh, yeah, lovely. Just send me that. She's very techie. So I said, just send me the money via PayPal. I didn't invoice her, but she then managed to use, even though I put the correct email address in it, she then managed to use an erroneous email address to send me PayPal, which, surprise, surprise, turned out to be a defunct PayPal account that I'd owned 10 years ago when I did own that email address.
Oh.
So she couldn't get a refund. She said, because it's still a live account, i.e. I hadn't closed that account. Hang on, there's somebody coming through my side gate. I am expecting Amazon. Hello. Do you need a signature? Oh, can you do it for me? I'm on the phone. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Bye. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So because I hadn't closed that account, because I hadn't been used for 10 years, and because I didn't have access to that email address, and she couldn't join until I could refund her the money, and because I couldn't get it, nobody could get it, she wanted me to phone the PayPal helpline, and I tried that, but it was so hot. And because the email address didn't work and the phone number didn't work anymore, I couldn't pass any of my own security checks to get into my own account. And I thought, well, I'll ask Eric, my computer man, who fixes everything remotely, can you set me up with that email address again? He was in Rwanda, if you know where that is. It's somewhere he said, yes, I can do it from here in 2 minutes.
Oh, good God.
He set me up the old erroneous email address. I logged in, I changed the password, I got a new password, I got into the defunct account, was able to send her her money back, and then she was able to send it to the right account, and we're off. And then I sat and I thought, right, is this a sign? Sometimes I wonder when things are tricky before joining, whether that's a sign. But actually, oddly, the clients who cause me the most grief before they join anything, sometimes, not always, but often, turn out to be not only great success stories, but friends, or even both. So I kind of got over myself and decided to not take that as a sign.
No.
I think I did deal with that on Monday. So in addition to that sort of 3-5 tizzy-making things, I also fixed an old defunct PayPal glitch with Eric from Rwanda.
That's called zapping tolerations. Do you remember those? I've done a whole week of those.
Well, I mean, it was brilliant. Anyway, there you go. I sorted it.
I've been doing. Have you got anything else?
No, you tell me about yours.
Okay, well, I've been zapping tolerations this week. I've been doing things like going to the dentist, which I rather stupidly booked in for 9 o'clock in the morning. I was so grateful for her speaking English. I just took the first appointment she suggested, which was 9 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. And I don't like getting up at 9 o'clock, and it's very, very hot. And I just didn't want to do it anyway. But she was extremely nice. Her name was Joanna, which is sort of the Greek version of Joanna.
Yes.
It was very, very clean. It was all very inexpensive. She gave me a very thorough clean, and we talked about my 3 broken teeth, 2 of which she can do something about, 1 of which she can't. So I was very reassured that it was just down the road as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very impressive. My hairy lodger has departed. I had 4 days of looking after Wilfred, as you know.
Yes.
And it made me realise that, no, I don't want a dog or any kind of responsibilities at all.
No, I'm not surprised to hear you say either of those things, to be honest. But if
I
you were going to have one for 4 days, Wilfred looked like the very man.
He was lovely, yeah, he was lovely. But I think if ever I'm going to have one, it's going to be a very small, fit in your handbag kind of thing. And
that would go with those fluffy mules you always intended to wear in Vegas.
Yes, exactly. But I think I'm going to be an eccentric, arty type now when I'm older, in the centre of Brighton, have a penthouse in the centre of Brighton with a little dog that fits in my handbag. And something that doesn't need much walking, walk around.
Slightly weird. I'm not convinced you're a dog woman, to be honest.
I am more than a cat woman. Today is the day when I find out if I've got into the Curtis Creative Writing course.
Good.
It was a week delayed, the email, but it will be arriving someday today. I am completely unattached to the outcome. It would be nice if it would give me some structure and form for the winter to do my writing too. Okay. It would be lovely to be in a small group of people getting tutored by the best. And it would be lovely to be exposed to Johnny Geller, who is the agent who works at Curtis Brown and looks after Michael Marshall Smith, who's one of my favourite writers.
Yeah.
But as I say, I'm not attached to the outcome. If it happens, it happens. It'll be absolutely amazing, wonderful. And I am on a bit of a purple streak when it comes to manifesting at the moment. So,
good.
I've got positive thoughts around it. Yeah. But if not, I will be fine.
Do you know how many entrants they typically get or anything?
No, we've got no idea.
Okay.
And this is the one where I famously misspelt the word synopsis.
Oh. Oops.
On the front page.
And you didn't notice till after you'd submitted?
No. Ooh, and spell check didn't pick it up either, because there is another word spelt synopsis with the spelling I used.
Oh, synapses or something.
Oh, I don't know. Oh. I mean, Steph was nearly sick when I told her.
Yeah.
She's very, very punctilious.
Yes, like me about that. Yes.
And she said, "Oh, that's blown it." Then, God, that you must feel.
Well, that may not be true. That's Steph's view of the world, but
Well, I did receive an email from them telling me that their decision would be delayed by a week because everyone's on holiday.
Yeah.
And I chose that opportunity to write back and say, "Oh, is there any chance then that I could slip in a new submission because I've managed to misspell the word synopsis?"
Yes. Yes.
And they've said, oh no, don't worry about that. We won't take any notice. We, spell check things that can be spell checked are fine. It's whether you've got a good, strong writing voice.
Okay.
So I haven't been worrying about it at all.
Okay, good.
And then, of course, I've started the new client. I've had the monthly board meeting with them, which we're going to do, and then we're going to have weekly catch-up meetings. And I'm very excited. It's starting entirely from scratch with someone who is a complete expert, as we've talked about in previous episodes.
Yep.
And where do you start? It's lovely. I love making order out of chaos, so that's really lovely. And that's pretty much my week so far. It's very, very hot and humid here. We're waiting for rain. So what's fueled your fire then?
Do you want to go first?
I can do.
Go.
Carrying on the writing theme, I spent the afternoon yesterday with my friend Linda, who's from America, and we watched, there's masterclasses. You can subscribe to masterclasses for $30 a month.
Yes.
She's got one on how to be a great writer. So I went round to her air-conditioned home, and we sat and we watched several of these, all about plotting, because she's got a story ongoing and she's writing the story, but she hasn't created any story arcs or plot points or anything, structural. So she's got to do that. And I've got a story arc and plot points, but I'm now come to a grinding halt on what to write next, because I've been writing in scenes and I don't know what to do next. So we spent the afternoon being inspired by this gentleman on how to write plots, the different kinds of plots, what you should watch out for, how to end your story, and all that stuff. And we were sort of drinking cold sparkly water and eating grapes in between.
Right.
And we had a really nice time. And we talked about both our books in between episodes. I think we watched about 5 episodes, and we came out with some really good plot points for each other. So we're both feeling very inspired. Then we went out for dinner with our husband in the evening, and I really feel like I'm ready to move on now.
And is Linda the one from the Deep South?
Yes, she is. It's the one who was brought up with the preacher father, yeah.
Okay.
And she's writing like a road trip for her 13-year-old self.
I've just realised why it's so much more you than me fiction, which is there's structure that you always quite like a how to do something and a process to follow. Yes, I don't. And actually, when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, oh, that's perfect for Nicola. I'm thinking, oh, it's so wrong for me. It's perfect. Perfect.
It is. I mean, I love to learn. That's one of my core values. And and I love to learn something new that I didn't know I could do, especially what you say when it's based around a nice, neat little structure.
Yeah,
I've always felt more creative when there's something to work to, rather than just
Well, I think a deadline. Yes, I think a deadline for me would be enough. A structure would finish me off, to be honest.
Yeah, but the thing is, I feel overwhelmed and confused without any kind of structure.
Yes, I think many people do. Yeah. Yes, I think that's why lots of clients say to me, "Just tell me what to do, Judith. Give me a process I can follow."
Yeah.
It doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, and I think that's why I applied for this writing course, because I think that will give me deadlines.
Yes, I agree.
I'm not going to do anything.
No.
What about you then?
Well, I'm up to 15 payers in my low-carb group, which is fun and lively and busy. And last Thursday night, I think it was, after consulting you and Joe Dodds, I did my first Zoom. I've been to 190 of them with you, and I've been to 50 of them with other people, but I've never been the organizer. And it went better than expected. I did, in the end, despite what Joe advised me, have to upload it via Dropbox. It's the only way I could get it to work. She said she uploads it directly to Facebook, but Facebook wouldn't take any of my recordings, whether MP3 or MP4 or anything. They wouldn't. One guy is still trying to work out how to join the group because he can't pay online. And I've said, look, can you just get to a bank and pay it across the counter? And I've said, I really want to work with you on this. And he says, yes, I really want to work with you too. But, until he goes to a bank, that's not going to happen.
Why can't he just hit a link and pay via PayPal then?
He can't do online. His wife died only 2 or 3 months ago, and she did all of that. And he doesn't know how to do online paying. And I've said, look, you just log into PayPal as a guest. And he said, oh, I'll try. But I don't know whether it's the combination of the bereavement and the heat, but just walk into a bank with my bank details and pay it over the counter. Everybody can do that. Anyway, I've got 2 married couples in the group. One where the woman joined and the men joined behind for different reasons. Well, actually, different reasons and the same reason. Both of the men in the couples are the chefs. So can I bring my husband? He does the cooking. Yes, you can. One, I've got a mother, a daughter and a friend trio. Some people have been in it I've done 15 or 13 inductions or 14 inductions over the last 3 weeks. And some of those people therefore have done 2 weeks and some have only done, 24 hours. But one lady who is a listener to our podcast and will remain nameless, two of them actually have reported no swollen ankles in feet, no swollen ankles or feet in temperatures of 30 degrees plus, which, as you know, is a miracle, actually. Yeah. And I said, what do you sense you were eating that was causing that? And she said, I think bread and crackers, particularly the crackers, I'd got a bit of a thing going for a cream cracker. Well, then I Googled a cream cracker. It's 84% wheat flour.
Oh.
84% carbohydrate, a cream cracker, which looks like an innocuous little thing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Well, don't eat cream crackers, loves. Not if you want to.
I broke my tooth on a cracker last week.
Yeah, it's easily done. Easily done.
I find that not walking is what does mine. So if I walk,
yes, movement is good. Movement is good. Keeping them up above your heart at some point in the day is also good. Yeah. But actually, it doesn't happen to me anymore either. Swollen ankles and feet, and I was dogged by that.
Yeah.
So changing your diet very quickly, inside a week can make a radical difference to that. And all that fluid that one is carrying around is heavy. So when it goes on the scales as well.
Well, I am definitely edging. I'm making much more conscious choices now around the low carb thing.
Yeah.
So, when I order my octopus, I make them not bring any bread and.
Well, interestingly, we do have to. Yeah, there's been a lot of hold the chips, hold the bread, hold the temptations away from me instructions. And when one of my ladies forgot to do that on one example, the bread came and she ate it because when it's near her, she can't resist it. And that's the whole point of this, if you remember. It's about addiction, which is if the food has power over you rather than the other way around. Yeah. So if bread is on the table and you can't not eat it, it's got the power, not you.
Yeah.
Right. I had a lovely conversation with a woman last night who told me she could eat 6 Magnums. Yeah, so can I.
6?
Yes, if you buy them from Lidl. She told me that if you buy them from Lidl, they come in 6s and that she could eat all 6. I went, yeah.
Oh, my God.
If sugar's your thing. You see, I am being snobbish about bread, not my thing. But, put a packet of biscuits underneath my nose. I'll eat a lot. And if there's another one in the house, I'll eat that too. Because those foods have the upper hand.
Well, Sarah said laughs because I can keep a packet of biscuits for weeks, but put a bottle of wine in the fridge.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. You see, last week you said the kids had left crisps, and I thought, well, she's not addicted to those because they're in the house and she's not eating them. It's not crisps, it's not whatever biscuits. It's wine. That is carb. You see.
I know. And last night,
same thing.
Yesterday, we spent the whole afternoon with sparkling water and club soda. Sarah said, there's sugar in club soda, but
no, there isn't.
Counts must be infinitesimal.
No, there isn't in club soda. Club soda is what the Americans call soda water.
Yeah. So yeah. I've been ordering that, and it's actually very refreshing.
Yes, it is.
It's because it's got a tiny bit of salt in it.
Well, the only thing that we can drink on the low carb thing really is sparkling water and soda water.
Yeah,
and one of my number, a woman that you know and like a lot, and who's enormous fun, and who has certainly given up the wine. I said, you better try the skinny bitch, the vodka and soda. I said, people say it's not nice. Well, she reported back, she said, I love it. So she's got something to drink when she goes to parties, which is fabulous.
It's all right if you put a lime in it, tell her.
Oh, she likes it.
A slice of lime, you're good.
She likes it. If you like booze, if you like spirits, she likes it. She likes it. I'm so pleased when she said that because she's the life and soul of a party. She goes out socially a lot. There's something she can drink. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yesterday we had a marvellous moment when a couple who go to the supermarket do their shop together and come home and have a family bag of crisps each in the car. She said, I found the posh pork scratchings and I whooped in the aisle and we had a bag each on the way home. I wasn't going to let him have mine. And they were absolutely delicious. No carbs in those at all.
Well, that's really hilarious, isn't it?
Well, it's brilliant when you can swap something you think you like for something else that's got no carbs that you like just as much.
Or even better, yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
It is. Brilliant.
Good stuff. Okay, so this week our focus of the week is an interview.
Yeah, we have another guest. It's Margaret Collins, who is a colleague of yours and mine in the Money Gym and who is, I think we are both agreed, a top bird.
Oh, absolutely.
I will introduce her, shall I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Margaret Collins is an academic and a lecturer, and she describes herself in the interview, I think, with us as a working class girl made good. Had to make some life changes when in her 40s because she realised she was about to become a full-time carer for her disabled sister, and a job wasn't going to fit into that as well or be as flexible as self-employment. So I remember almost to the day when Margaret had that light bulb and made that switch. She's recently published her first proper book. It's called Beyond Imposter Syndrome. And she said she would like to come and talk to us about what it is, where it comes from, how it feels, what to do about it. She was very reassuring. She said it's universal. There's nothing wrong with us. 72% of the world's population experience imposter syndrome. And she has strategies for a life beyond IS, as I'm calling it. Here now, Margaret, you're here, aren't you?
I am.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Just before you arrived, Nicola said it's Margaret Collins next. How wonderful. Isn't that good?
It is.
No,
The pockets of my heart.
Yeah, Margaret, you are my favourite mechanic. You are quite high up on my list of favourite low-carbers, it would have to be said. And you share enough on social media for me to totally love the people you love, Beck and Lynn. Tell us start us off by giving us 2 minutes about you and your life and your business, and then segue neatly into what it is you want to talk to us about today.
Thank you, Judith. Well, if I'm describing myself and my life and my business, it starts off with a working class girl made good. And so through an awful lot of luck and some hard work, I ended up with some amazing opportunities and valued security very much, worked very hard and had a really good job until I realized that it really didn't create the type of life that I needed. Because when I was in my 40s, I became a full-time carer for a disabled sister. And so at that point, and I recall a very key conversation with you, Judith, about
it just came
the
flooding back to
stability
me,
provided.
It just came flooding back to me. I'd forgotten it temporarily, but as soon as you led up to it, I remembered it.
Yeah, do I really want to pay off my mortgage? Because for me, up until that point, it had been a sign of stability, which had been my measure of success. And all of a sudden, I realized there was a whole entrepreneurial world out there that created different opportunities and led to much more flexible lifestyles and opportunities for business. And so I set myself up as a coach and a trainer, which is how I came to know both yourself, Judith, and Nicola. And I guess that brings in imposter syndrome, because at that point, you really think, well, who am I to do this? And I realized that something that I'd felt all through my role as an academic and a lecturer was, I was making it up as I was going along. I never knew as much as I should, and everybody else knew more about me. And it was even more so when you come to put yourself out in business.
Right, so Paul, just draw breath for a second. Margaret's just published a book called Beyond Imposter Syndrome, and that's what she's going to talk to us about today. You won't be surprised to hear, Margaret, it's not something that either Nicola and I suffer from or therefore understand. So perhaps we should more.
Yeah, well, it's a very common thing. Research shows that up to 72% of people say that they experience imposter syndrome at some stage during their life or career. And it tends to affect men and women equally, although it affects them. The impact it has on our lives is different. It's a very gendered difference. But, it would mean that 28% of people don't experience imposter syndrome, and you and Nicola obviously sit firmly in that camp.
I do. I look at people like Marie Forleo and people like that and think, and Bernadette, and I think I'm never going to be as good as they are. So, what
and I like that question of Margaret's, which is, who am I to?
Yes.
But is that the key to it, Margaret?
Yes, who am I to? It's because we can't own our own success.
Okay.
That's the real bit that's at the heart of imposter syndrome. It's not about whether you achieve or not. It's that you can't believe that I have achieved. Who am I to have done this? Who am I to? And we often attribute ourselves to...
Sorry, can I just ask a question there? So when you say you ask the who am I, it's often asked after you've achieved the success rather than when you're thinking about going for it.
All the time, Nicola. All the time. And in fact, achieving success often makes it worse in the long run. Because once you've achieved success, there's a temporary relief where you think, thank goodness I did it. And then there's the, how on earth did I do it? And if you don't know how you've achieved your success, then you don't know that you can repeat it.
That's very true.
And so you get a very temporary relief, after which you get even greater insecurity.
That's fascinating, and I have experienced it big time one time in my life when, and I do recognise it, and it did cause a massive crisis of confidence.
And it doesn't have to affect your behaviour, but it often does. And it's that classic thing that we all know about, that if you have a job description that says, in order to apply for this job, you need these 10 qualities or attributes. That, if a man's got 6 of the 10, he'll say, well, I can definitely learn the rest on the job. I'm going to go for this. And if a woman's got 9 of the 10, she'll think, oh, well, I haven't got that 10th, so I'm not going to. And so feeling that you're not good enough, you haven't got the full package ready, perfect, and ready to go, tends to get women holding themselves back from taking action.
Where do you think it comes from, Margaret? Is it just a genetic chemical thing from? Does it come with estrogen?
No, although estrogen probably stirs it up a bit. I think it's innate and part of being human. They've certainly done lots of research on it, and they know that there are certain types of people who are more likely to feel like imposters, and they are people who in some way are different. It might be that they're the first in their family, or the first in their profession, the first to go to university, the first to be self-employed, the first to be a scientist in a family of musicians. It can be people who are obviously minorities, so with disabilities or cultural differences, or an immigrant into a major population. So people who are different are much more likely to feel like imposters. But I think that there is also a neurological basis to feeling like an imposter. Are you interested in a little bit of brain science?
Oh, I love a bit of brain science.
Yeah, we are.
Fantastic. Well, when you put people into things like fMRI scanners and you look at the activity of their brain, the researchers are normally interested in what is their brain doing when you are doing something specific, like solving a problem or identifying the different shapes, or you're engaged in solving problems. But between the tests, the subjects just lie there doing nothing. And eventually the researchers figured out that in the times when we're doing nothing, a different part of our brain is activated, but consistently activated. And what they identified was the very inspiring name of the default network, the network that comes on and is activated when we're doing nothing else in particular. But that default network has a number of parts. One is an awareness of self, so we become much more aware of ourselves. Another part is an awareness of others, a part of the brain that's responsible for placing ourselves in the presence of others. And both of those are very close to a part of our brain that is designed to do problem solving and fault finding. And a fourth part of this default network is a bit of our brain that places ourselves anywhere but the present. And so we can project ourselves into the past or into the future. And so the effect of this default network is that it projects ourselves in relation to others at some time in the past or sometime in the future, and figures out what are we doing wrong, because it's finding fault and criticizing. And so the two most common messages that people report, the two most common self-critical messages, are you have nothing to contribute and you're a fraud, you don't belong here.
Oh, they're so sad, both of them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And they feel, when one feels those, it feels incredibly personal. But the truth is that they're universal. It's just because they feel so sad, we don't voice them. We couldn't possibly say those out loud.
Well, almost every single one of my clients eventually gets around to saying something out loud that makes me go, oh, you need to go and talk to Margaret Collins and download that freebie about it. I mean, it is universal, yes.
Yes.
And that makes it better somehow, doesn't it?
It is. We know it's not us.
Yeah,
and
we're
I
all
think
in it together. Yeah.
I think as soon as I started therapy and realised I was just as bonkers as everyone else, I felt like...
Yes, and not nearly as unique and interesting as you thought you were.
Absolutely. It's that common humanity.
Right. Now, Margaret, a couple of tips then. I mean, obviously, we want everybody to read the book, Beyond Imposter Syndrome by Margaret Collins, but give us a couple of tips.
Well, the thing about imposters is that we think differently, and therefore we need to change how we think. And so the first is maybe to literally own your own success. So keep a record of your achievements. You might feel that it's bragging, but you don't have to tell anybody about it just yet. Just make sure that you know what they are and that you can normalize it. You can use the same standards for judging yourself as you use for judging other people.
Yeah.
And so you're not applying different standards to other people and different standards to yourself.
Yeah.
Another thing is to challenge your inner critic, because your inner critic will say it's all your fault and it's going to be terrible forever and you will never be able to walk into that room again because they'll always remember you. And so, challenge that. Is it really universal? Is it really going to be that devastating? Is it really going to be a catastrophe? And so we can get a little bit more realism onto the, okay, so we might be temporarily embarrassed, but we're not the first person to have done this. And their memories aren't going to go. So the minute I do something else and achieve something else, then I'll be able to restore my reputation.
Mm.
And so,
but actually, you don't need to have done anything wrong either to feel an imposter, do you?
Oh, no.
No.
Absolutely not.
Do you know, these conversations that we're having, and you're our third this morning, they're like daisy chains. The first one connected to the second.
Thinking that.
And the second one was Nicola's sister, Sarah. And she mentioned two things that you've just mentioned about a record of achievements. She didn't use that language, but that's what she said. And then we talked about Byron Katie. Is that true? Is that really true? And that's what you've just said, the challenging the inner critic with the realism, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're like daisy chains. Isn't it fascinating, Nicola?
I know. It happened last week as well. I'm sitting here mesmerised by the synchronicity of it all.
Yeah, the goldfish mouth open, yes.
And I guess the truth that it highlights is that there's very little that's new in the world. And all the gurus and all the really good people that I work with and that I follow, they're all giving the same message in slightly different ways.
I think there's a zeitgeist to it as well, which is what the right message at the right time. But the fact that there's nothing new, thank God there's nothing new, because we're still very much engaged in the panoply of old, aren't we? And there's gazillions of old stuff that we're all still wrestling with.
Absolutely, because it's part of being human.
Yeah.
So your book,
I mean, that humanity angle, sorry, Nicola, that humanity angle is vital, that we do and think and say and bungle and succeed as human beings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nicola?
And,
I've got
sorry, Margaret.
Yeah, questions about your book. So Margaret, do you help people in the book identify whether they are suffering from this? They might suspect they have, others they wouldn't be picking the book up. And then do you then go on to talk about what causes it, and then give people practical things they can? I'm sure you're a very practical person. You give them practical tips on what they can do to overcome it, or at least shut it up a bit.
Absolutely. And so the first section is on what is it and where does it come from? The second is what can I begin to do about it? And the third section is, 10 practical tips that you can use to begin to put your imposter back in the box.
Yeah.
But the imposter, I'm not sure that it ever goes away.
Oh, I was going to ask that. Is it like a little cousin that lives in a box in the cupboard forever?
Well, Judith, you messaged me to ask would I contribute to this podcast. And I think it took me about half an hour to reply because I kept thinking, what, me? Talk about imposter syndrome for 20 minutes.
But actually, you're a high achiever, Margaret, aren't you?
By many standards, I would be
you are. You're an academic and a lecturer. I mean, academic to me is like the pinnacle of achievement, actually, for a brain box, Yeah.
And we're all imposters.
I like
it. The vast majority of us.
I like it more. That thing what we know so well, all three of us, is that we teach what we most need to learn. Your topic remains interesting. The topic that you coach and teach around and write about remains interesting until such time as you've cracked it. It's no longer interesting to you to write about it or teach it or coach it if you feel you've solved it. And it's so much better for our clients if we're right in the middle of still wrestling with it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fascinating.
And so, so the book is there as something that's really easily accessible, and it's designed to be a short read. But, one of the things that keeps coming up in my workshops, and one of the reasons why I do workshops, is that, someone shocked me a few years ago and they just said, so how do you change what you think? In a sense, we think without analysing how we think.
And we also tend to think that's a fact, don't we? It's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. But, just like Mike Dooley in the universe, thoughts become things. Thoughts are just thoughts, and like clouds in the sky, they float by until you focus on it or hang on to it. And the thoughts that you focus on and hang on to become things. They become real.
Yeah. And so again, are you saying we make it real then?
Absolutely.
We make imposter syndrome real by sort of puffing life into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, when we think different thoughts, when we choose to focus on different messages, then we can change the way that we feel and the way that we behave as a consequence.
And what you've said is that 72% of our listening audience, will be nodding and recognising this in themselves.
They will. They will. So I hope that they go away understanding that there is hope, that it is perfectly normal, there's nothing wrong with them, and that there are many concrete strategies that they can use to focus on their achievements, to understand how they do it, to cut themselves a bit of slack, because they are human, with all that entails. It's, ups and it's downs, and that they can learn to think and behave differently.
Well, I'm a living example of that. Last 20 years has been a massive journey for me. I was totally at the mercy of my emotions, and I've worked through so many different things. And I'm going through the Michael Neal thing that Judith recommended, creating the imposter. And there are echoes in there of this as well. And I think the one thing that's come out of looking back over that time when I succeeded, and I didn't know, then it all crashed down. I didn't know how I'd done it the first time. So I spent 2 years in the wilderness trying to figure out, what to do next, thinking it was the thing that I'd done that was the success. But actually, it had been a success because it was me that had done it. And when you realise that you are the reason you've achieved those successes, not luck or external influences or help, mentoring. I mean, all of those things come into it, obviously, but the unique ingredient is that it was you.
And you can't imagine how big the grin is on my face as I hear you say that.
But yes, so and so you said there's 10 things that people can do, because I think I love those, but but books have changed my life. Every time I have identified that I've got an issue, I go and look for a book for it. So this is marvelous that you've written something that people can pick up and learn about themselves, and then know that they're not alone, and that everybody feels it, and then pick up tools to change.
Absolutely.
And Margaret, two seconds on a topic close to all three of our hearts. You've self-published, have you?
I have.
And how are you marketing the book? And how's that going?
I think it's going well. I'm not putting as much effort into marketing as I should. I know that, Judith. I learned from you. But self-publishing is surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe how it feels when you get that first copy of your printed on demand book and you think everything that I had in my head and everything that I've seen on my computer screen is now translated into a book.
Took me completely by surprise. I had a little tearful moment, I have to confess. It was much more moving than I expected it to be.
Yeah. And even as an academic who has published research papers, seeing a book is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's a process that's really simple to do. And I'm finding that I'm getting global sales. So people that I haven't spoken to individually, but who are either seeing reviews on Facebook or seeing reviews on Amazon and picking it up. So people in my network are talking about it, and then it's spreading through word of mouth.
Well, you're lucky, really, because your audience is 72% of the population.
It is. and that's a good niche.
A book is a private way for them to access help, isn't it? Margaret, just look up
Absolutely.
the top 100 personal development podcasts on the podcast charts, and just get yourself on every personal development podcast talking about this and own this space, and you'll be fine. It will sell itself.
Yeah. Did you hear what she said?
Nicola.
Own this space. That's a sort of like a throwing down the gauntlet to an imposter syndrome sufferer. Own the space, Margaret.
Well, Judith, I turned up here today despite
did.
spending 30 minutes vacillating about whether I could talk to
You did.
you
I'm
about
surprised,
imposter
I'm
syndrome.
surprised I allowed you to vacillate for as long as 30 minutes. Normally I can be quite assertive, as you know.
I'm seeing, you know what I'm visualising now, Margaret? This will make you quail in your boots. I'm seeing a TED Talk. I'm seeing Margaret.
Wow.
Ooh. Well, no, she'd be perfect for that. I tell you why. I always feel, I'm going to have a small imposter syndrome moment here. I always feel I'm slightly not academic enough for a TED Talk. So actually, Margaret, you've got the perfect set of skills for that. You already lecture and stand in front of rooms and things.
I do. So absolutely. I can tell you how to get there and do it.
No, we don't want you to tell us how to do it. We want you to do it.
Yeah, two very, very strong creators have brought this into reality now. So it's on its way to you, Margaret. That TED Talk is on its way.
Thoughts are becoming things.
Yes,
thank you.
they are.
Gracefully received.
Now, I love you with every fibre of my being, but we have to spare you, Margaret, because we're on a little bit of a schedule here. We've got to shift you along to our next punter.
I totally understand. It's been a delight, and I can't wait to hear the products of all of these.
Well, as you can hear, we're so excited that all three of us will be talking over it when you eventually hear the thing. But Nicola's quite a whiz with the editing, so it ends up sounding slightly always better than I think it's going to.
Well, it's always good and it's always enthusiastic.
So
That's
a big
key.
hug to you and yours. Thank you so much for being here.
You take care both.
Okay.
Thank you again.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye.
Well, that was great, wasn't it?
It was. She's just such a wonderful woman. Humorous,
Yeah,
clever.
Really straight down the line. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like her a lot.
She met her, I don't know what they would call each other. They're married. So she met her life's partner at university and they became civil partners. And then they got married on the first day it was allowed to happen.
Very nice.
I know.
Yeah, lovely.
And between them, they care for Margaret's disabled sister, which is, and they're the two that come to London all the time on marches because they're very politically motivated. Which is
Yes, yeah, very good. I follow them on. And
yes, and they have a lovely life. I think they had chickens as well, didn't they? Which would resonate with you.
Yes, deeply jealous. This lady I went to spend the afternoon with yesterday, I came out of our house and I said, "Do you know there's a big chicken in your front garden?" She said, "Yes." She said, "There's two actually, and there's a bunch of babies."
Oh, I thought you were going to say, yes, it's dinner.
No, free-range chickens. They're all over the shop here. I like them when they just pop up unexpectedly like that. Okay, so what's your word of the week then?
It's induction because I've done 15 of them in the last 3 weeks. I'm getting rather good at them now. In fact, I think I'm rather good at them anyway. But last night I had to do 2 back to back, and your body's like at 7 and 8 o'clock at night after a hot day, and your body slightly goes, "Oh no!" But as soon as I do them, I love them because every human being is unique. And you know, the first one it's about sugar, and the second one's about magnums. So it's all great, really.
Yeah. Well, mine is humid because we are waiting for rain here. It's been threatening thunderstorms for every day this week, and I sit here in front of an open window with, you know, the open door to the side of me, an open door behind me. And yesterday, a big wave of hot, damp air rolled in, and I thought, "Oh my God!" And I looked at the thing, and it said 85% humidity.
Yeah.
I thought, no, I don't like humid at all. I like hot and dry, but it's very pleasant. There's a breeze, so it's fine.
You know that series of books you got me to read, the Penn Cage novels set in Natchez in Mississippi?
Oh, yes.
He said in one of his adventures, he describes humidity as life-saving because humidity means that dampness comes on your skin.
Yes.
And so if you're out and about doing something brave and you haven't got enough water, you can literally take moisture off your own skin and survive.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, so there's a survival technique for you if you're lost in a forest in humidity, but not if you're in a hot and dry.
I blooming love those Penn Cage novels.
Hot and dry, you'd be dead, okay? But humidity, you can save your life.
He's my second favourite author after Michael Marshall Smith now.
Oh, that's interesting.
And, well, no, I mean, Ian Banks is still up there as the
I'm
Dawn.
in number 3 and I found it quite hard going. I sort of put it on the side for about 3 months because it was a really grisly topic. You know, the one about the gambling boats on the river?
Oh, yes, that was.
I thought that was grisly. I'm still in it. So don't tell me what happens. But
No.
I had to put it down for about 3 months because I didn't think I had the stomach for it.
No, that one was one of the more serious ones, yeah.
Yes.
But they're all really good, so persevere.
Yes, I will.
Project updates.
What have you got to tell me?
I've got to tell you about my new client. So I wanted to go into a bit more detail about what I'm going to do with this new client who comes to me with their expertise and how I'm going to tackle it.
Go for it.
And we're going to, do you remember a book I read and really, 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 really liked called Traction?
Yes.
Yes, well, I'm going to use the Vision Traction Organizer with her. So on the next call, the first call was all about our expectations for the call and our working together and our communication styles and getting our passwords out for her and things like that. And then the first call of the weekly calls is going to be about setting the 3-year vision and the timelining and making sure that I know what her values around her business are so that I don't trample over any of them accidentally. And, so yes, I just want to remind everyone of a fantastic business planning book called Traction. And there's 2 versions of it. There's a book called Traction and there's a book called, I've completely forgotten the other one.
Yes, I remember. It's called something like, it's not Get Your Year in Gear, but it's something like that. It's one of those types of expressions, isn't it?
It's a story version of the Traction's very much a how-to book. And then there's a story version of it as well by the same author. Gino Wickman, I think, is the guy who did Traction.
Anyway, if you can find Traction, which has got a yellow cover, I think. The other one's got a sort of black one with orange writing on it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'll have to check that author. But yeah, Traction, really enjoyed it. So I'm going to work through that with the new client. And she's very familiar with it because I went and did a dinner and a day with her and we worked through it then. So she really liked it. It's a 2-page business plan, essentially.
Because she's such an academic, clever woman as well, which seems to be the theme of the day. I only recommended a book to her the other day, and she hoovered it up in. I haven't even finished it, and she'd finished it, and she's off. She's good at consuming material, and implementing it.
The thing that is really interesting about this particular client is that she is, and I've met a few of these in my life. Paul Fugel is another one. He's extremely clever, academically speaking, but when he goes into his headspace, he stops being creative. So my role with this other client is to let her continue to be the healer, creative side of her, and because otherwise she gets really bogged down in detail very quickly. And so my role is to take all that off her, so she doesn't have to think about that. She just keeps focused on the big picture and the healing and the magical side of things. So that could be my new goal.
So, Traction, how any startup could achieve explosive customer growth. I'm not sure this is the right one. Gabriel Weinberg and Justin Mayers. Is that right?
Oh, hang on.
And Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business is by Gino Wickman.
Yeah, that's the one. Traction,
right,
Gino Wickman.
Let's have a look at Gino Wickman. That's the one with the black cover and the rocket fuel. One essential combination will get you more than you want from your business. What the heck is an EOS? He's written quite a lot. Get a Grip, the second one.
Get a Grip, that's the one.
That's it, yeah. So the first one's called Traction, the second one's called Get a Grip.
That's right. And the Get a Grip one is written from the point of view of him going into an imaginary company and sorting them out from scratch. And if you like sort of examples and stories, that's the one to read. If you're happier with tick lists and bare bones dry to, then I would go with. I'd read them both together probably.
Okay. One of the ladies I've already told you about today, who shall remain nameless for the second time, was a big fan of Traction.
Oh, okay. Was she the one that went off and trained as a Traction?
Yes. Well, I don't think she did, but she certainly intended or intends, I'm unclear. It's important in her work, put it like that.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, there you go. So what about you then? What have you been up to?
Finally, on Monday morning, in that exciting tizzy-making moment, I received the phone call from the potential 3-year house-sit woman.
Oh.
So next Tuesday, I'm going to London for the day to meet her, my heroine. And so I will have to keep everyone on tenterhooks until we come back in September. Of course, I might not even know till September, but I'll put it in the group if it's a goer. Were I going there today, the temperature would be 34 degrees.
Good. Oh, that's unbearable in London.
Next Tuesday, fortunately, the forecast is 24, so that's all right. Now, if it doesn't work out for any reason, your sister Sarah has sent me a link to a nice 6-month one starting in September in Oxfordshire with no pets, which would mean I could be there for the winter, which was so cold and difficult down here when I arrived. If you remember, when I live alone, I can crank the central heating up to tropical. I like it indoors, 34 degrees, but I don't like driving or... Well, just
34. I couldn't cope with that. I never had my heating up to more than 20.
No, I wouldn't have the heating up to 34. But I would have it up to tropical. I was having it up to 25 at least.
Oh no, I'd be far too hot.
No. Well, so's my hostess. She said I don't want to live in a sauna. That's why I was so cold and miserable when I got here.
Yeah. So, well, that's exciting news then. So I'll be, hopefully you'll let me know. I don't have to wait till September, do I?
Well, when I know, I'll let the people I've told know.
Yeah, great stuff. Cool. So that's very good. And anything else on the project update front?
No, that's enough, isn't it?
Okay. And who or what's impressed this week?
Well, two things. I'm totally in love with the English countryside. It's very beautiful, breathtakingly so, even though a bit sort of non-green. I've no idea how I feel about going to London next week. And, I was deeply wedded to London for 40 years. It was my home of choice. Anyway, so that's a bit weird. But the beautiful English countryside is lovely. What's really impressed me this week is Mamma Mia 2. Especially a couple of very moving little lone ABBA songs. Emma and I cried like leaky buckets, and we met a man we knew in the foyer afterwards. He confessed to crying too. And I got before we went, I was having a wee, as you do before you go out, and I went, oh my God, I'm about to get one of my old age pensioner benefits. I think I think her ticket was £10 something and mine was £8 something. I think that's the second or third time in 3 years that I've enjoyed a benefit from being an old age pensioner. And you've got to get where you can in acknowledgement of long service, Nicola.
Absolutely, yes.
Cher was great, but the little known song which Meryl sings, and your sister Heather has thoroughly enjoyed this morning on Facebook, she sings it with both of the younger women who are in the film. It's a real tearjerker. I'd never heard it before, even though I'm a bit of an ABBA expert. It's called My Love, My Life, and I've had to enjoy it on YouTube since Sunday about 1,000 times.
Oh.
The film's very funny, cheered us right up, not to mention, as you said, aircon in the cinema, when in Somerset on Sunday it was 31 degrees.
Oh, God.
I know. Can you imagine that without any? We don't even have, we don't have a fan. The best defence I've got against it is the blind is down.
Yeah.
I've sort of been in the dark for about 8 weeks. I don't know how long this has been going on now, but I haven't raised the blind for 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
What about you?
Lovely. Hang on, the lady opposite has just thrown all her skanky water out over the road.
Oh, great. Yeah. Now, tell me what's impressive.
Well, I've got to tell you, terrible, terrible, terrible news about the fires in Athens, near Athens. Unbelievably sad. But moving on to, everyone's focusing on the people who died, and that obviously is awful. But there were over 750 people saved off the beaches. They were taken off the beaches by airlifted and, boats. Yeah. So, lots and lots of people were saved, and it was, a very small number who sadly perished. And of course, having been unexpected phone call. Hold on one second. There's someone. Hold on. Hello. No, I'm sorry, I don't speak Greek. Bye. I'm sorry, I thought it was someone who I knew. Where was I saying? Yes, obviously having been through that experience earlier in the year when Heather and Richard were out, when our hilltop caught ablaze in a high wind, which was, could have been potentially frightening. In fact, some people were evacuated. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Can you pull the wire out of the back?
No, I can't do any of those things. All I can do is keep putting it down. So I'm very impressed with how many people they did manage to save, and I'm very impressed with the Greek people who, in the absence of an infrastructure, just step up and fill the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a human being thing, isn't it? You do what you can, and you don't know what you can do until a disaster breaks out.
Exactly. And I did share on my, if anyone is, thinking they'd like to contribute, I did share on my personal Facebook page a link to all the organisations that are working in the area. Good stuff. All right, that's us done then. So
it's done. It's us done until September. We're on our holes. Woohoo!
Hey! I hope to announce that I've written at least another 10,000 words by the time we come back.
Yes, and actually we could both have exciting announcements during the holidays. One about your course and one about my house sit.
Yes, that's right. So come and join the Facebook group, ownitthepodcast.com. On Facebook, we've got a group and a page. Join the group and you'll get all the inside gossip.
See you soon.
Bye.
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 How do they do it? Not a care and suffering. Wanna step into their world. Who holds the key?
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.